At my boyfriend Luke's birthday party, he refused to acknowledge me as his girlfriend. The onlookers around us shot me looks of scorn and judgment. They assumed I was the publicly humiliated other woman, waiting for me to make a scene, waiting for me to break down. But I smiled, my voice unnaturally calm and firm. Happy birthday. As for our relationship, this is the end of the line. At Luke's birthday party, I stood a few steps away from him, attending as the unofficial girlfriend. That sense of detachment was confirmed the moment Luke's first love, Carrie, showed up. I don't recall seeing her on your guest list today, Luke. Carrie held up a glass of champagne, her smile elegant and sharp, and the lights of the entire party seemed to shine on her. Luke's face froze for a few seconds. His knuckles tightened as he tried to cover it up with a forced smile. And I, standing just a few steps away, casually swirled the glass of sparkling water in my hand, quiet, sober, but completely thrust into the spotlight by her single question. Everyone present was waiting for him to explain, waiting for me to embarrass myself. She's a friend of a friend, Luke finally said. I gave a quiet laugh, a sound that almost overlapped with the sharp clinking of glasses. A friend of a friend? After 6 months, I finally heard the definition he gave me. Sensing Luke's evasion and my lack of cooperation, Carrie's laugh became sharper, like fingernails scratching a blackboard. Oh dear, that sounds a little awkward, she drew out the word awkward heavily. But it's okay. Some people, well, they might not even count as a friend. They're just an unofficial secret, right? Her voice was loud enough that the scattered gazes around us instantly converged. I heard the murmurs begin, the onlookers' judgmental and mocking stares silently convicting me, an other woman who had delusionally tried to claim a position only to be publicly slapped down. I didn't look at Luke, I faced Carrie directly. Luke, my voice was lower than Carrie's, but carried an undeniable composure. Did you forget to remind Carrie that some roles require a dress rehearsal? After all, only those who are unacknowledged and can see the light of day need to be defined as an unofficial secret. Carrie's face darkened. She realized I hadn't been provoked, instead, I was counterattacking. She raised her voice, trying to overwhelm me with sheer presence. What is that supposed to mean? I am Luke's. What I mean is, I cut her off without hesitation, my gaze sweeping over Luke, giving him no escape, and finally settling back on Carrie's face. If you are a legitimate, irreplaceable presence, why did Luke act like he was hiding something when you mentioned my identity? If he had a clear conscience, why wouldn't he introduce you, his first love, as the only person meant to be by his side tonight? Luke finally couldn't bear the mortification. He abruptly pulled Carrie's hand away, his face ashen, and roared in a low voice, Arya. Enough. What are you trying to do? It's my birthday. What am I trying to do? I took a step forward, completely closing the distance between us, my voice carrying a penetrating coldness. I'm just thinking that since you're always vague about me, and you can't be honest about her, perhaps I should help you both clarify things. Carrie picked up her weapon again, with the final arrogance of a victor. Clarify what? Clarify that you're the uninvited person trying to grab a non-existent position? Luke has never acknowledged you in public. Aren't you embarrassed? The snickers around us became more noticeable. I even heard someone whisper, that's enough, just leave. It's not worth it. A feeling of extreme lightness and relief rose inside me, the relief of finally shedding a burden. Embarrassed? No, not at all. No, I actually feel incredibly lucky to have finally seen the truth. I ignored Luke's furious, loud rebuke and only looked at Carrie, a hint of pity I'd never felt before in my eyes. Carrie, you think you've won because you're standing next to him? You are happily accepting a man right now who refuses to give any public respect to the person by his side, whether it was the past me or the present you. Do you really think he's going to change later? Carrie was rendered speechless by my comment, fury burning in her eyes. I raised my wrist and checked the time, as if reviewing an insignificant, completed task. Time's up, I said. Luke was completely bewildered, seemingly not understanding the performance I was putting on. What time is up? I looked directly into his extremely handsome face, my eyes conveying a sober farewell, firm and without a trace of regret. Luke, you were great. You fulfilled my college wish of dating a very, very handsome guy. Thank you. He was completely shattered by my words, his face filled with shock and anger. What nonsense are you talking about? I took a deep breath, smiled, and said in an unnaturally calm and powerful voice, Happy birthday, Luke. As for our relationship, this is the end of the line. You've completed my wish. I turned toward the door, my steps light, as if I had shed some kind of restraint. As for my next life goal, this time, I won't need anyone's cooperation. After leaving Luke's birthday party, I didn't go home, I went straight to my best friend's apartment. The moment she opened the door, she hugged me, cheering for my feat, as if I hadn't just been through a public execution but had won a battle. You were so cool, Arya. She handed me a glass of ice water while cursing through clenched teeth. That jerk and the homewrecker deserve to wallow in their own filth. Who does he think he is, hiding you? I sat on the couch, pressing the cold glass against my face, a smile curling on my lips, a hint of self-mockery, a hint of relief. I didn't tell her that I had known all along that I was being hidden. Of course I knew. From the start, this relationship was a time-bound objective I set for myself, not a love headed toward a future. Luke, he was a club mate of my cousin's at college. I first met him when I was delivering an urgent document to my cousin. I still remember that afternoon, the sunlight streamed through the clubroom window, falling diagonally across him. He was playing the guitar, his profile as perfect as a Greek sculpture, and his eyes, deep as if they held a starry sky. In that moment, the second, most difficult item on my list of 10 goals to achieve in college, set when I was 18, have a relationship with an amazingly hot guy, lit up like a flash of lightning. With a clear goal, I acted immediately. No tentative testing, no waiting for the foolishness of fate, I directly asked my cousin for Luke's contact information. My pursuit was textbook persistent. I made him elaborate lunchboxes, helped him organize club documents, and went to every one of his club performances, even if he was just tuning instruments backstage. It took him less than a month to move from polite distance to a half-hearted acceptance. He never took the initiative, but he never refused either. I knew clearly that he wasn't genuinely in love with me. He enjoyed my chasing, my admiration, the feeling of being held on a pedestal by a smart, independent, and good-looking girl. But I didn't mind. To complete the goal, I was willing to pay the price. I knew I was a tool, and so was he. Later, when my cousin learned we were together, he looked at me with a complicated expression. He even felt a little sorry for Luke. "Sis," my cousin asked me privately, "do you really like Luke? He's undeniably good-looking, but you're not the first to be mesmerized by his face. You're my sister, so I have to warn you, you were the fourth girl this semester to ask me for his contact info." I smiled, patted my cousin's shoulder, and showed understanding. I know, he's definitely in demand. But don't worry, I'm more level-headed than he is. Sure enough, the relationship wasn't happy. Luke was never willing to publicly acknowledge my existence on social media, claiming it was to protect privacy. Now it seems it was merely to clear the stage for the return of a first-love character like Carrie. For my birthday, I received a dismissive, "I forgot," not even a single flower. My best friend and other friends had long accumulated extreme dissatisfaction with Luke's lack of care. "Arya, you deserve better." They protested more than once. Yes, I certainly deserve better. I looked at the woman in the mirror who had been blinded by love and just found it funny. So, a week before Luke's birthday, I gathered my small group and announced a major decision. "I've decided, I'm dumping him." My tone was as calm as announcing what I'd have for breakfast the next day. My friends were first stunned, then erupted in cheers. "Finally! You should have done this ages ago." Amidst their cheers, I began preparing for my next life plan, applying for a master's program at a California university, which was the goal that truly required my focus. Just as I decided to completely pull away, a message from my cousin arrived like divine assistance. "Sis, you and Luke didn't fight, did you? His ex, Carrie, is finishing her gap year and is coming back to school next week." I looked at the message and began to internally time Carrie's return. She was destined to be the catalyst for ending this meaningless relationship. Her and Luke's arrogance became the perfect curtain call for completing my goal of dating a hot guy in college. I had to find the perfect moment. When he was at his most triumphant, I would personally push him off his pedestal. The upcoming Halloween party would be ideal. The date of Carrie's return to campus was approaching, and so were the parties. Halloween was undoubtedly the biggest night and the most suitable one for making a decision. I wore a minimalist black dress, disguising myself as a rational ghost, emotionless, only here to harvest. Luke was dressed as an ancient Roman warrior, handsome and flamboyant, while Carrie, positioned as the goddess of victory by his side, was inseparable. I didn't avoid them. Instead, I boldly joined the circle they were standing in. I even smiled and nodded at Carrie, which instantly put her on high alert, as if I had some dangerous agenda. Of course, my agenda was dangerous. At the height of the party, when everyone was lost in alcohol and music, I walked up to Luke. He was surrounded by a cluster of friends, basking in the attention. "Luke," I spoke, my voice cutting through the noise, clearly reaching everyone present, including Carrie, who was watching me smugly from a short distance away. "We need to talk." Luke was clearly taken aback by my initiative. He thought I would retreat after the humiliation of his birthday party, so my appearance now was, in his mind, a sign of weakness. He even smirked with a look of triumph, as if to say, "See? She came back." "Talk about what?" "Arya, I told you I don't like discussing our little emotions in public," he scoffed, adopting a completely condescending posture. "No, this isn't about little emotions." I calmly shook my head, then slightly raised my voice, ensuring Carrie and the friends around us could hear. "This is about announcing a definitive fact. I looked straight into his conceited eyes, every word precise, like signing an unalterable agreement. Luke, I am officially breaking up with you. This 6-month fling is over. The scene felt like the mute button had been pressed. Luke's expression instantly froze from arrogance to shock, followed by unbelievable anger. What did you say? He practically bit out the words, trying to make me back down with a threatening glare. Carrie was also stunned beside him. She had been waiting to see me grovel, not to see me call an end to the whole performance. I said, I dumped you. I shrugged, my tone as light as if I were merely stating the weather. You fulfilled one of my college wishes, and now, that wish has expired. I'm moving on to my next goal. Luke's initial shock gave way to a sneering smile of ridicule. Arya, do you think I'll beg you to stay if you say that now? Stop being so dramatic, he contemptuously glanced at me, with absolute confidence in his own charm. You're going to regret this soon. You think you can find someone hotter after leaving me? Dream on. You don't have the standing to cause a scene and then expect me to wait patiently for you to come crawling back. I was surprised by his blind self-assurance but didn't argue. Maybe so, I returned a perfect, completely detached smile. But my regret is my own business, and it has nothing to do with you. All you need to know is that you are out of the game. With that, I gave him no chance to reply, turned around, and walked firmly out of the party amidst the silence and curious stares. Every step was light, making room for my next life objective. After I left, Luke's anger finally erupted. The script he had anticipated was me crawling back, only for him to coldly dump me, thus restoring his control within his social circle. Now, he was the laughingstock who had been dumped in public. She's crazy. She is being completely unreasonable. Luke complained to a couple of his male friends, slamming his drink down on the table in a fit of pique. She'll do anything to get my attention. Just wait and see. Within a week, she'll come back begging me to reconcile. Who does she think she is? A woman I favored for 6 months, daring to pull this stunt on me. Luke ranted, confidently disparaging me and asserting that I couldn't live without him, convinced I would eventually give in. He needed validation from his friends to mend his shattered ego. However, his friends' reactions were unexpected. Luke, Arya wasn't wrong, a friend named David hesitated to speak, a clear note of defense in his tone. You really never made her public. 6 months, and she didn't even get tagged on your social media. She just wanted a little basic respect. Another friend, Chris, chimed in, yeah, Luke. You can't really blame her. You were way too dismissive of her birthday. She's so sweet, and she's pretty and independent. She doesn't need to grovel for you. And, David added, what Carrie said on your birthday was definitely out of line. Arya was right to fight back. Luke was completely stunned. His friends, who were usually his loyal followers, were now collectively siding with me. The worship in their eyes was replaced by clear scrutiny and a hint of disapproval. What are you guys talking about? Luke felt a surge of frustration and humiliation, his voice close to a roar. What kind of spell did she put on you? I'm your brother. She's just an outsider. He violently shoved the table in front of him, creating a loud crash. Luke discovered that in the drama he had meticulously orchestrated, he was the one being isolated. The more he belittled me, the more his friends defended me. He thought that with his good looks and popularity, he could control everything. Instead, the power balance was completely overthrown by a person who was goal-oriented and decisive enough to walk away. Anger and frustration almost twisted him. Luke stared at the doorway, his eyes filled with resentment towards me. Arya, he muttered to himself, his voice carrying a prejudiced malice. You are a cunning woman. You managed to rally everyone to your side without me even noticing. I won't let you get away with this so easily. The next morning, I set an alarm for myself and returned to Luke's place while he was likely still nursing a hangover from the previous night's humiliation. It was less our place and more my secondary crash pad. For the past 6 months, I'd spent half my time staying there, but I had never considered it home. Therefore, the process of packing was simple, almost cold. I quickly gathered my few clothes, my regular set of skincare products, and all the books and materials I had brought. I didn't leave any emotional keepsakes, nor did I take a second look at the little surprises he had casually given me, which I hadn't cared much for. Everything was neatly packed into 2 suitcases. The entire process took less than half an hour. I was like an efficient cleaner, erasing all traces of Arya's existence. I even left a clean water tank in his apartment's coffee machine, ensuring he would wake up to a decent-tasting cup of coffee, a final bit of goodwill toward him for cooperating with the completion of my wish. The moment I closed the door, I didn't look back, my heart as calm as still water. I called an Uber and headed directly to a boutique hotel downtown that I had always loved. For me, a complete break had to be clean and definitive. The hotel room was bright and immaculate, with a stunning city view. I sat by the floor-to-ceiling window, sipping hot tea, enjoying my first truly quiet time that was entirely my own. I opened my laptop and pulled up a long dormant file, the 10-goal list I had set for my 4 college years on my 18th birthday. The list was dense, covering academics, social life, health, and more. Most goals, such as maintain a GPA above 3.8, learn a new instrument, or complete a solo cross-state trip, were already marked completed in bold black font. I paused at the second item, the one I had labeled highest difficulty, Goal 2, have a relationship with an amazingly hot guy, completed white heavy checkmark. I scrolled down, turning my attention to the next goal waiting to be illuminated, Goal 7, apply and get into a UC master's program, pending hourglass not done. Applying to a UC master's program was, given my current background, no less challenging than pursuing Luke. Yet, I felt an unusual sense of assurance about it. Because this goal was entirely my own. It didn't require Luke's cooperation, Carrie's provocation, or the judgment of onlookers. It depended solely on my effort, my time management, my focus, and my ability. Growing up, anything that required only my own action without the cooperation of a second person, like exams, winning scholarships, setting and executing detailed plans, I had always approached with confidence and never failed. A project like love, dependent on the emotions of others and full of uncertainty, I could treat as an interesting experiment to be completed. But the main direction of my life had to be in my own hands. I closed the list file, opened a blank document, and typed the first line, UC Master's Application Plan. During the first week of preparing my master's application, I did a crucial thing. I contacted Dylan. Dylan was a senior from my high school and a key figure on my UC application goal list. 4 years ago, when I was first preparing to apply, he was already an undergraduate at UC and had been incredibly generous with his help, from course selection advice to essay revisions. He was like a warm light guiding me. At the time, my goal was firm, and I was clearly on track to follow in his footsteps. However, fate played a trick on me. Just before I was about to submit my application, my grandmother, who I was closest to, became seriously ill. To be able to visit and care for her regularly, I had to make a difficult decision, give up the UC offer and choose a local university closer to home. That decision caused a huge ripple effect at the time and created a small rift between Dylan and me. I hadn't explained the reason to him promptly, and he, upon learning that I had gone back on my word, had expressed a little confusion and disappointment, blaming me for not sticking to my dream. Now, sitting by the hotel window, I took a deep breath and dialed the phone number he had left in an old email. He answered quickly. His voice was as steady and pleasant as ever, like a warm cello, instantly smoothing out the slight nervousness in my heart. We arranged to meet at a quiet coffee shop. When Dylan pushed the door open, I could almost hear the slight gasps of the surrounding women. He was handsome in a distinctly different way from Luke. If Luke was the flamboyant, sharp, arrogant lead of an idol drama, Dylan was the subtle, natural, English gentleman type. He wore a well-tailored gray cardigan, looked neat and sharp, and his eyes held respect and focus. The joy of the reunion quickly overshadowed the distance of time. We chatted about our current lives, and then I decided to be completely honest and resolve the old issue. Dylan, regarding what happened 4 years ago, I want to formally apologize to you. I set down my coffee cup, looking at him sincerely. I backed out of the offer and broke the promise we made, and I didn't explain clearly. At the time, my grandmother was very ill, and her condition was serious. The only thing I could do was stay close to home so I could see her every day. I felt a wave of relief after I finished. He didn't press for details, just listened quietly, his expression shifting from surprise to deep understanding and gentle apology. Arya, he leaned in slightly, his tone carrying genuine remorse. I should be the one apologizing. I was too quick to judge then. I just assumed you had given up without considering that there must have been a critical reason behind it. I'm truly sorry for what you were going through. He paused, then raised his hand in a slightly formal gesture. Now, please allow me to retract all the criticism I gave you 4 years ago. You made a difficult but correct choice. It shows your commitment to family, and I'm proud of you for that. His words were more comforting than any of Luke's sweet talk. He didn't use any frivolous or exaggerated phrases, but simply used his characteristic warmth and understanding to completely repair the minor crack between us. The atmosphere instantly lightened. I smiled and told him, the good news is, my grandmother has fully recovered now. She's doing very well, and she encouraged me not to waste any more time and to go after what I really want. So? Dylan's eyes instantly lit up, filled with anticipation. So, I plan to apply to the UC Master's program again. This time, I won't withdraw, I said firmly, with the excitement that precedes the realization of a goal. Dylan gave a heartfelt smile, one that was clean and warm, completely different from Luke's arrogant smirk. That's fantastic, Arya. He clapped for me, then shared his update. I've already graduated from there and am now working in research at one of the university institutes. Everything is going smoothly. He handed me a business card with his title and email. If you need any help, just let me know. I'm glad you're finally getting a fresh start. This time, I'll be here to guide you all the way, he promised, his gaze firm and strong, radiating powerful support. I knew that with Dylan, an experienced alumnus, my application journey would be much smoother. He had already paved the way for my next wish. With Dylan's encouragement, my master's application preparations quickly ramped up. I fully immersed myself in the goal. The library became my new base, and the hotel room transformed into my efficient private study. My schedule was as regular as a precision machine, focused solely on boosting my GPA, perfecting my test scores, enhancing my research experience, and writing my essays. In my world, there was no longer any room for Luke. However, Luke's world began to crumble because of my withdrawal. He started acting 3 days after I broke up with him. Initially, it was text messages, delivered in a distinctly arrogant and disdainful tone. "Luke, do you really think me if you dumped me? Don't be naive, Arya. Stop being dramatic and call me when you're done wasting my time." I didn't reply. A few days later, the texts turned into phone calls. He called twice. I watched his familiar name flash on the screen, hit the silent button without hesitation, and let it go to voicemail. Next, his messages shifted from arrogance to accusation and belittling, attempting to use verbal abuse to re-establish his control over me. "Luke, you're pathetic. After following me for 6 months, why the sudden act of virtue? You think pretending to ignore me makes you more valuable? Don't forget, you were the one who shamelessly chased after me. Luke, I should have known a woman like you isn't good enough for me. You'll be worthless without me. You actually think your paltry application will get you into a UC? Dream on." I maintained my composure and didn't reply with a single word. To him, any response, whether anger or defense, would be a victory. My silence was the ultimate form of disdain and negation. While Luke tried to disrupt my focus with malicious words, Dylan was like a calm barrier, guarding my concentration. He was on annual leave, having returned to our shared hometown. He often waited for me outside the study room at the library, handing me a hot coffee. He never inquired about whether I had seen Luke's messages, nor did he ask about my feelings post-breakup. He simply used the most professional approach to assist with my application process. For this research area, you need to highlight your independent thinking. You can downplay teamwork a bit here. Regarding your GRE score, if you want to aim for the top 3 UCs, you might consider taking it again. But if your energy is limited, this score is more than enough for excellent programs. He only ever talked about the goal and the possibility of achieving it, like an efficient mentor. One day, as he was driving me back to the hotel, I finally couldn't help but mention Luke's harassment. He texts me every day, putting me down with really ugly things, saying there's no way I'll get accepted and telling me to go back to him, I said, my tone calm, but my eyes betrayed a sense of weary contamination. Dylan pulled the car over and was silent for a few seconds. Then, he turned and faced me, his eyes full of warmth and respect. "Arya," he said softly, "you've made the most correct decision. Anyone who tries to keep you by putting you down is deeply insecure and not worth a single second of your time." He reached out and gently patted my shoulder, unable to hide a hint of pleasure in his eyes, but his tone remained restrained. "I respect any choice you make, including completely ignoring him. You just need to focus on your goal. You know how good you are. You don't need his validation." Although he said he respected my choice, I could read the barely concealed delight in his deep-set eyes. It wasn't gloating over Luke's misfortune, but genuine joy for my freedom from a toxic guy. He didn't say anything out of line, but he quietly stood in front of me with his tall, handsome build, blocking all the noise and malice from Luke. With his companionship, my underlying self-confidence grew even stronger. Luke's persistent harassment only became the fuel that accelerated my application process. That night, I returned to the hotel from the library. The night was deep, the streets around were quiet, lit only by faint streetlights. I was completely focused on the critical revision points Dylan had given me that day for my essay, and I was walking quickly. As I reached a secluded corner near the hotel entrance, a dark figure suddenly darted out from the shadow of the wall. Reeking of heavy alcohol and suppressed rage, he violently pinned me against the cold wall. "Luke?" My heart skipped a beat, but it was quickly replaced by calm. "Why won't you answer my calls? Why won't you reply to my messages?" His voice was slurred, hoarse, and full of self-pity. The handsome face I had once been infatuated with for my wish was now twisted with uncontrolled rage. "How can you be so cold? Arya, tell me, what wasn't good enough about me? Why did you dump me?" Before I could even speak, he roughly lowered his head, attempting to force a kiss. The smell of alcohol and anger instantly invaded my space, carrying an extreme sense of violation. I didn't panic or close my eyes. My body instinctively reacted with the most decisive move. I used all my strength to shove him away while simultaneously raising my knee. Although I didn't connect squarely, the action made him stumble back a step from the loss of balance. "Don't touch me!" I yelled, my voice sharp and powerful in the silent night. Luke was completely enraged by my resistance. His eyes bloodshot, he looked like a wounded beast trying to lunge at me again. Stop acting like some virtuous maiden. You weren't like this when you were chasing me. Are you going to deny you felt anything for me? Come back, Arya. You can't live without me, he roared. I took a deep breath, straightened my disheveled collar, and spoke in a tone that was icy and sober, every word a bullet aimed at him. Luke, are you deceiving yourself? Do you really see yourself as the abandoned victim? I took a step forward, completely seizing control of the conversation, making it impossible for him to retreat. You are a person who doesn't cherish those around you. You only ever offered me your unofficial secret, dismissiveness, and disrespect. Now, your beloved first love, Carrie, is right there. Hasn't she returned? So why are you regretting? Why are you crazily running back to me? I watched the confusion and struggle in his eyes and knew I had hit his core. He didn't love me, he just couldn't stand being rejected by me, couldn't stand losing control. I'm telling you, I said, one word at a time, delivering the final judgment, there is no possibility of us getting back together. Never. You were just a check-off item on my life goal list that has been completed. Now, I am moving forward. Stop interrupting my life progress. My words completely crushed his last hope. Luke's body seemed to deflate. He let out a desperate, low groan and then ran off in the direction he came from, his steps staggering, utterly defeated. I stood rooted to the spot, relaxing my tense nerves only after his shadow completely vanished around the corner. My poor hero. It looks like I didn't get a chance to perform. A voice carrying a hint of a smile came from the corner of the wall. I turned in surprise and saw Dylan stepping out from a deeper shadow. He was wearing a dark jacket, tall and straight, holding a thermos that could have served as a weapon. He looked like he had been standing there for quite a while. He looked at me and smiled, a helpless expression mixed with a trace of approval and affection. How long have you been here? I was slightly embarrassed, the scene had been mortifying. I came over as soon as I heard him shouting your name. Dylan walked toward me, a trace of lingering fear in his eyes. I was worried he was drunk and might hurt you, and I was just about to intervene. But, you protected yourself too well. You not only chased him away, you verbally decimated him. He reached out and gently touched my arm, checking to make sure I wasn't hurt. You don't need anyone to save you, Arya. Your sharpest weapons are your clear head and your decisive courage. I looked into the light in his eyes and knew he wasn't lying. He wasn't the kind of man who made empty promises. He proved through action that he would always be the one standing silently behind me at the critical moment. He hadn't rushed to intervene, he trusted my ability. In that moment, all my disgust toward Luke and the feeling of the past being wasted were completely dispelled by Dylan's tenderness and chivalry. What I felt was not the weakness of being saved, but the strength of being admired. Thank you, Dylan, I said, my gratitude genuine. Go on up, he checked his watch. You need to get up early tomorrow. Your application plan can't be delayed by an inconsequential episode like this. After Luke stumbled away defeated, I calmly returned to the hotel. He didn't try to contact me again, but that night's outburst marked his utter defeat against my clarity and decisiveness. To me, he was just a chapter closed. But for Luke, the trauma I inflicted was the complete subversion of the power dynamics. The script he had envisioned was this: I would panic after being provoked by his first love, Carrie, and then, as always, return begging for reconciliation. He would savor my subservience, and eventually, at some opportune moment, he would ruthlessly dump me with the attitude of a victor, thus restoring his sense of superiority and control as the pursued. However, I not only didn't return, but I preemptively, gracefully terminated him as a completed project. What infuriated him further was that I didn't show any signs of suffering. Instead, I became even more focused and confident. Even his drunken plea for reconciliation was dismissed as an inconsequential episode. In Luke's mind, the logic of my existence was utterly shattered. He realized he had invested a little genuine emotion, though he'd never admit it, but couldn't win me back. His proud good looks and charm were nothing more than a stepping stone for me to reach my goal. He felt immense embarrassment, mockery, and unprecedented humiliation. He was profoundly frustrated and enraged by his inability to control the situation. He tried to complain to and badmouth me to mutual friends, claiming I was a scheming, fake, and manipulative woman, and that I had only approached him to satisfy my vanity. However, he quickly found that the effect was counterproductive. My friends were already on my side, and even his own friends had developed a sense of respect for me due to my conduct at the birthday and Halloween parties. They began to feel that Luke's unofficial treatment of me over the past 6 months had indeed been too much, making his accusations sound hollow and unreasonable. When Luke realized that even the people closest to him were starting to question him, he knew he had lost completely. He felt powerless, and finally, like a deflated balloon, he chose to retreat in silence, completely vanishing from my social circle. Luke's departure allowed my life to fully return to its planned course. My application process had reached the final sprint stage. On a weekend before Dylan returned to California, he conducted a thorough mock interview with me. We sat in a quiet coffee shop. He played the role of a UC admissions officer, asking professional, sharp, and challenging questions. I responded calmly, articulating my insights based on my 2 years of study and research experience. After the interview, Dylan closed his notebook, his eyes showing undisguised approval. "Arya, your talent has always been underestimated. Your thinking is logically clear, and your plan for future research directions is very well defined. You don't need to worry, your capability is entirely worthy of the school," he affirmed. Receiving his validation was more powerful than any compliment. When we said goodbye, Dylan walked me to the hotel entrance. His tall stature shielded me from the cool night breeze. "I'm leaving now, Arya," he said softly, a hint of reluctance in his voice. "Thank you, Dylan. Thank you for all your help during this time." I looked up. His deep eyes met mine, holding a complex, unspoken emotion. He paused, then simply reached out and gave me a deep hug. The hug was firm and warm, full of encouragement and expectation, yet maintained an absolute boundary. "See you in California," he said finally, his voice low and resolute. He hadn't made a declaration of love, but that simple phrase, "see you in California," was enough. I understood that a tacit understanding had formed between us. He would respect my goal, allowing me to complete this life battle on my own, and our story would officially begin after I achieved my next wish. My patience, focus, and self-discipline finally paid off in the spring. That afternoon, I was finalizing a term paper in the library when my phone suddenly flashed with an email notification. The subject line read, "University of California Graduate Admission Decision." My heart skipped a beat. With a nearly imperceptible tremor in my fingertips, I clicked open the email. I didn't even read the official language from the beginning, my eyes immediately skipped to the most important sentence. "We are pleased to inform you that the admissions committee has recommended your acceptance to the Master of Science program." I had successfully received my acceptance letter from the University of California. A huge, unspeakable surge of excitement welled up inside me. This wasn't mere luck, this was a victory I had earned entirely on my own, through meticulous planning and unwavering execution. The completion of this goal felt far more grounded and profound than the fleeting joy of having initially pursued Luke. I didn't immediately tell my best friend or cousin. The first person I shared the news with was Dylan. I sent him a concise text, "See you in California." I got the acceptance letter. Less than a minute later, his phone call came in. "Arya. Congratulations." I knew it. His voice was filled with unrestrained joy and excitement, more animated than my own reaction. "You honored all your hard work. I'm incredibly proud of you," he said seriously. I laughed and said, "I have to thank my mentor. Without your mock interview and advice, it might have taken me a bit longer." "That's completely different from receiving acceptance to this university right after your undergraduate degree." Dylan's tone became serious and firm. "It means the university values you, and it means you've always had this capability. You just needed an environment that allowed you to go all out and stop being distracted by others." Dylan's affirmation made my joy even more complete. He was never one to take credit for himself, he simply stood firmly in his recognition of my value. After I shared the good news with family and friends, the message quickly spread through our shared social circle. Naturally, it reached Luke's ears, too. I hadn't heard anything about him for some time until my cousin forwarded me Luke's resentful inquiry. "Cousin, Luke just messaged me. He asked if you were spreading false news, saying you want him to come back and win you over." I couldn't help but laugh out loud at my cousin's relay. Luke's confidence, or rather, his arrogance, was truly astonishing. He eternally believed he was the center of the universe, and everyone's actions revolved around him. I texted Luke back directly, the first time I had replied to him since I dumped him. "Arya, Luke, are you serious? Do you really think I would use a major life event like applying to a UC master's program as a tactic to win you back?" Less than a minute later, Luke's angry call came in. I answered it. "Arya, stop pretending. I don't know where you got this fake news, or if you got someone to brag for you. But with your grades, there's no way you got into a UC. You spread the news just so I would see your value and regret dumping you, right?" His voice was steeped in bitterness and resentment. I leaned back in the chair, my voice as calm as if discussing the weather. "Luke, your name isn't on my acceptance letter. You have no place in my future plans. Your arrogance has truly blinded you, making you unable to accept one simple fact: you were not the end goal of my life, not even an important fork in the road." I paused, then countered with a touch of sarcasm, "As for whether I'm qualified to get into this university? I think, compared to a man who needs to hide his relationship from his girlfriend and then runs off to forcibly kiss his ex when he's drunk, I'm clearly more qualified for a future. If you genuinely don't believe me, you can go ask your friends if my acceptance letter is real or fake." I didn't give him a chance to retort and hung up the phone immediately. Luke predictably inquired with my cousin afterward. Cousin, he asked me if it was true. I told him, yes, she's going to a UC. Stop bothering her. Her life has already moved on. Reading my cousin's message, my heart felt warm. I had not only achieved my goal but also earned the respect and support of the people around me. Luke finally understood completely. He had lost. He hadn't just lost a girlfriend, he had lost the charm and power he had long relied on. On the eve of my departure for California, as I was sorting through the last of my documents, ready to finally say goodbye to the city, an uninvited guest suddenly appeared downstairs at my temporary residence. It was Carrie. She was wearing a jacket I recognized, one Luke had given her, and her face held a complicated expression of both jealousy and resentment. Arya, she cut right to the chase, her tone deliberately dismissive. Are you done playing games? I stopped what I was doing, put down my water glass, and calmly looked at her. Carrie, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't pretend, she sneered, glancing around the luxurious setup of my hotel room, the fire of jealousy in her eyes intensifying. Luke doesn't believe you got into a UC. Neither do I. We both think you spread this news just to manipulate him, to make him regret letting you go, right? Listening to her monologue felt like watching a ridiculous one-woman show. Their arrogance and self-centeredness had reached such a nearly pathological degree, they genuinely believed that all my efforts were just to gain Luke's attention and win him back. So, why are you here today? I asked, my voice devoid of emotion, as if asking an inconsequential question. Carrie's eyes suddenly turned venomous. She took a step forward, trying to overwhelm me with threats. I'm warning you, Arya. Stop playing games and stay away from Luke. Even though he won't make things public now, doesn't even get me gifts for my birthday, and our dates are sometimes just hookups, he'll eventually see my commitment. We will definitely be back together. Hearing her description of the relationship, a massive sense of absurdity washed over me. She thought she had Luke, but she had only accepted the same, or even less, dismissiveness and disrespect that Luke had initially inflicted upon me. I couldn't help but smile, a laugh that carried an all-knowing ease. Carrie, don't you think it's strange that because you like Luke, everyone else must like him too? I walked up to her, my tone more honest than ever, carrying a complete judgment of both her and Luke. I'll tell you the truth, Carrie. I stopped liking him a long time ago. I was interested in his face, and once the goal was achieved, he lost his value. You're struggling for his so-called genuine feelings and status, but I don't want him. Carrie's face turned ashen, choked by my words. All the threats and accusations she had prepared crumbled before my simple declaration, I don't want him. Furious and embarrassed, she was about to retort when a deep, magnetic voice suddenly came from the hotel entrance. Arya, sorry, I'm a bit early. Dylan appeared. He was wearing a well-fitted khaki casual jacket and carrying a simple black backpack. He exuded a clean, mature, and powerfully charming aura. He walked toward me, his suddenly handsome face bearing a gentle smile, his eyes focused and warm. I happened to have the weekend free, so I drove up early to pick you up. Are your bags ready? We're heading to California. He naturally walked over and took the carry-on bag next to me. Carrie froze in place. She looked at Dylan, a man who surpassed Luke in looks, temperament, and maturity, treating me with impeccable tenderness and chivalry, and explicitly stating that he was here to pick me up for school. The flame of victory in her eyes instantly died, replaced by jealousy, confusion, and complete defeat. She finally understood, I wasn't putting on an act. I was truly moving on to a completely new, higher stage of life, and the person standing by my side was infinitely better than Luke. Carrie opened her mouth, but all her words were caught in her throat. Finally, she just yelled, frustrated and exasperated, you people. Unable to bear the immense gap and humiliation, she spun around and fled the scene with even greater speed than when she arrived. I looked at Dylan, who was also watching me, a slight, playful smile in his eyes. It looks like I arrived at the perfect time. Yes, I smiled, the perfect curtain call. Later, I heard fragments from my cousin that Luke and Carrie eventually broke up. Luke couldn't handle my success and departure, becoming increasingly irritable, and Carrie couldn't tolerate his pattern of refusing to give any respect in a relationship. But none of that mattered to me. The moment Dylan opened the car door for me, I had completed the two most difficult wishes of my college years, dating a handsome guy and being accepted into my dream UC master's program. I sat in the car, watching the familiar city fade away outside the window, my heart filled with anticipation and confidence for the future. This time, I was embarking on a life path that truly belonged to me, a kind, clear-headed, and brilliant journey.